Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Victory Sunday. It is the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast, and we're here with a Victory Sunday. We got our two guys here. We'll start with the CEO himself, Mr. Ryan Dairu. How are you doing this Victory Sunday? I guess he can't hear us. Ryan, can you hear us?
Yeah. Ryan, can you hear us?
He can't
He's
hear
just
us.
head down. You know, he's T-bowing
Ryan,
it right now. Yeah. So
is he frozen? We'll get back to Ryan. Jamal. Jamal, how are you doing this Victory Sunday?
Doing well, Coach. Doing well. You know, I'm sure we'll get into it. It's going to be a fun conversation here. A win is a win, and I think we'll take it. But lots to unpack, certainly. But always a pleasure to see you, my friend.
Yeah, good deal. Hey, so the Bruins won yesterday. That was good for you guys.
Yeah. Both Trojans and Bruins win. It was a perfect Saturday in LAFB college land for sure.
It was a perfect Saturday at LAFB college land. I will say this. And I'm going to put it out there. Here's my hot take. The conference championship for the Trojans is not out of reach. It's not out of reach. It's not. And it's still available for them to get. Washington's not playing very well on the road right now, and they have to come to the Coliseum. So there he is. Ryan, how are you doing?
Live, my internet just died or whatever. So, but sorry. But yeah, great. Happy to be here. Hopefully everyone can hear. But Victory Sunday, what's up? Had a lovely evening with the Madman last night, celebrating his birthday. So we had a great time with his friends and family. But hey, happy to talk some SC. I guess we'll call it a win.
Yeah. So I was telling Jamal, Pac-12 championship is not out of reach. I'm just letting you know that now, and we'll get into your questions. Bring all your questions in. We love your contact. Washington's not playing well on the road, and they come to the Coliseum next week. Oregon already has a loss, and they have to play Oregon State, who's playing really, really well right now. Not really well, but they have to play. Excuse me. It's a rivalry game, and Oregon State has to play Oregon. You know what I mean?
But Oregon State just lost to Arizona last night, so I don't know how well they're playing.
I know. Yeah. That's what I said. Excuse me. Not really well. That's not
just
really
a rivalry
well.
game.
It's a rivalry game, right? And so you get into the rivalry game aspect of it. So, and we'll talk about this. We'll talk about this on Thursday. Just a little preview. SC's about to go through their playoff stretch, as I will say, right? They're going through their playoff stretch. They got Washington, Oregon, and Autzen. They got UCLA at the Coliseum. Let's just say the stars align, just like all the stars aligned for our show on Thursday, where it was perfect timing. Everybody had plans. We had to be done by a certain time, and the stars align. Let's just say the stars align. We can see. I'm not going to say a Pac-12 championship win because I don't know who they will play if they won all three of those games, but we can see a Pac-12 championship appearance. Just saying. So, fingers crossed, but it's not over, and I'm being optimistic. Jamal, don't jump on me. We're not going to talk about this now. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to put a little bit of optimism in the air for the Trojans. We've been bashing them for a while. We haven't really been happy about it, but I'm saying that Pac-12 championship hopes are not over. So they're not over. It could work out. So hopefully we can see that. If we beat Oregon and Autzen, Oregon's out of the Pac-12 championship. That'll be 2 conference losses, right? So we have to beat Washington. We have to beat UCLA, and we'll see what happens from there. But other than that, that's just a little optimism I'm putting on you guys on Victory Sunday morning. Congrats in advance to USC's future DC, Anthony Lynn.
No, I would love that one.
I don't see that happening.
No, we got to start with. I think Logan is very astutely sort of teeing it up here. We have to sort of. I'm glad we got a little bit of optimism in the show, Fred, and we'll have more over the course of the week. But I think we have to start with, again, the defensive performance to give up 49 points to a Cal team that was just so limited on the outside. It felt very similar to last year. They were just kind of sliding the tight end on a crosser beyond the linebackers just over and over. It just felt like they were running the same play over and over again with kind of play action, inside slant to the receivers. There was just no contained to the inside. There was penalties. There was a lack of discipline. And it really was a situation where this defense was very fortunate that Jaden Ott got hurt at halftime. I mean, it is what it is. And we'll kind of get into, I think, the performances that were really good for the Trojans and the positives. But honestly, I came away yesterday as this was more of a game that Cal lost than USC won. I mean, it sort of is what it is. There were a couple of moments there at 28-17 when Cal was up, at 43-29 that Cal was up. When you look at those possessions, they had really just undisciplined personal foul penalties that sort of put them behind the chains. There was that unsportsmanlike at the end of the half that sort of killed their drive, that where they could have gone for the hammer. There was that the lineman who sort of dove into the sideline that sort of kind of derailed that possession. And then it was just the turnovers, and some were forced, but particularly on that punt return where the returner was just kind of going for more yards without going down. It just opened the door for SC to be able to win this game. Credit, SC went through the door and won the game, but you just can't rely on this. And the law of averages is going to take over here at some point. So I get it, Fred, that there's a path, but there's always a path, right? There's always an art of the possible with this. But, I mean, you walk out of there we thought being an 11-point favorite was actually sort of disrespectful, given this team was 20-point underdogs to just about everybody else meaningful in the conference. And, yet again, they were just sort of lucky to escape. So, I don't know where this team kind of goes from an identity standpoint. I think the defense is what it is. I think Caleb's, it almost feels like possession by possession, like he's engaged one possession and then he's thinking about the NFL draft the next possession. And then he kind of wants to be a leader one possession and then he doesn't care the other possession. So it's just going to be kind of possession by possession with this team moving forward. Is this team, a credible? I have a hard time believing this team, considering this is the best conference in America, is going to be one of the two teams that's playing in Vegas. It just feels like a stretch.
I mean, they're at the top of the conference, though. They're not even a bottom.
Yeah, and they lose to Oregon. And they lose, even if they beat Washington and UCLA, they lose to Oregon, which they probably will on the road. They're eliminated. So,
right.
It is what it is.
But on that note, that's great to say, and it's great for the Pac-12. And it sucks that Larry Scott just killed this conference, because it looks like this conference was on the uptrend, right? If you were invested in stock, you're buying Pac-12 right now. You know what I mean? Like, this is the time to buy Pac-12, and like I said yesterday, everything below Washington State, I mean, it's worth buying. And it's unfortunate for the conference. We have these talks all the time, but it's just great for the conference. Either said that, but I will say this, and I was going to send you a picture of it. I watched the whole UCLA game yesterday, and they ran a screen, and I was dealing with the baby, and then when I looked up and saw the replay, I couldn't pause it. I didn't want to rewind it. They ran a screen. There were, like, just off a quick count, at least 5 players in blue. By the way, you guys don't kill me for that. I loved UCLA's uniforms yesterday. I think they should go back to I think they should keep their helmet with the UCLA and keep that powder blue and white.
Yeah, no, it was super nice last night.
I love those uniforms. But there was like 5 players running to the ball.
You're talking Colorado ran the screen. UCLA was on defense.
Colorado ran the screen. Yeah, UCLA was 5 players. Boom. USC ran USC yesterday. They ran that screen yesterday where I sent you guys a picture. And there was an offensive lineman just burying the DB, and the safety's trying to come over the top. That turned into a touchdown. And like those little things matter. And they're just not, and I say this all the time, they're just not in the best position possible. I will say this for last night. And Jamal, you're smart, and you pick this apart, because I have a friend, and I tell him this all the time. Every time we watch a game and the better team brings it down, better teams play better for longer periods of time. And when I say that, just hear me out. It's not the whole game. It's those small periods in time where you need something to happen. Yesterday, USC was the better team, and then during those periods of times, SC ended up playing better, right? Cal made mistakes at the end that cost them that game. And like you said, that's Cal beating themselves. It's not USC beating Cal. I just think that USC played better for longer periods of time yesterday, and Cal kind of shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's spot on, Fred. But I mean, what are we really saying here? For a team that had CFP or bust implications at the start of the year, and expectations were saying, well, they were better than Cal. Well, I mean, yeah, of course. I mean that it's sort of. I mean, the fact that we even need to have that conversation at this point in the season kind of tells you where we are. I mean, let me put it this way. I mean, I think three things that I really liked about the game. One is I thought Caleb made two throws that were his best two throws of the year. And we've talked a lot about, the difference. Caleb kind of has been just kind of throwing to guys that are open. He's been a little bit gun shy. Penix throws guys open. Caleb throws to open guys. I thought that ball to Branch in the second quarter where that touch ball where Branch was just the Cal defender was wearing him like a suit and he just sort of dropped it in. I thought was an absolutely phenomenal ball. And then in the third quarter, that streak down the sideline to Hudson, that was a phenomenal throw. Those were his two best throws of the season by far. In my opinion, those were his two best NFL throws this whole season. So I love the fact that he became less gun shy again and was starting to kind of have more confidence in his balls. I think the second where I really loved it is that when the going got tough in the fourth quarter, Marshawn Lloyd recovered from that fumble and made the huge plays. I mean, it started.
You want to win? Let's zero spin.
It started with that reception. The 56-yard reception when SC was down 43-29, and it allowed SC to score really quickly and put the pressure right back on Cal. And I thought that was just a terrific reception. He turned around, set his feet, found the outside, showed just all of the athleticism, was phenomenal on that drive. And then, of course, when the game was tied 43-all, him sort of popping to the outside for 56 yards and allowing SC to take that lead. Ryan, I know we sort of talked about it. You said, hey, 14 to 15 carries. Well, he was at 17 carries for 115 yards. So he really was able to recover from a tough start with kind of coughing it up and did an outstanding job. And it was good that Lincoln Riley trusted Marshawn Lynch as the playmaker in the fourth quarter when the going got tough. And then I thought Eric Gentry was phenomenal. I mean, when you talk about the interception, when you talk about the forced fumble, when you talk about the pass breakup late in the fourth quarter to set up SC taking the lead, and then, of course, the pass breakup on the 2-point conversion to seal the victory. So I thought those three individual performances were really outstanding when the Trojans needed it most. And those three guys are going to have to be the leaders of this team moving forward for them to have sort of any semblance of opportunity over these next three games. And so that's what I really love. And and then I think on the flip side, obviously the defense has to get a lot better. And they got really lucky with some of these turnovers here to be able to pull it out. But it was nice to see those three performances.
Ryan, what do you think about yesterday? And then we'll hop into some questions.
Yeah, just to piggyback on the Lloyd thing. And I mean, maybe people would disagree with this, but I
real quick, Ryan, real quick.
Yeah.
Jamal said Marshawn Lynch. If we have Marshawn Lynch, he'll be.
Oh, did I say Lynch? Yeah, the Freudian slip there. Yeah. I meant Lloyd. Yeah.
If we have Marshawn Lynch, he'll be getting the ball 35 times, and we wouldn't lose a game. Go ahead, Ryan.
You'd hope, unless Pete Carroll's still coaching, then maybe not.
True.
No, but I think it's a lot of people like when coaches will say something and then actually do what they say. And there was that moment where Lloyd had that fumble, but USC recovered, and he gets up and it's trotting to the sideline like he's coming out, and Lincoln's, no, you're staying out there. And so I thought that was like, okay, cool. Like, it's like that trust thing, like, hey, you're still staying in the game, even with that potentially bad play that obviously it worked in their favor. But yeah, great performance there. It's at the point where this is who they are. So you kind of have to you got to enjoy the little things. If you're a fan out there watching the game, it's frustrating as hell watching some of these moments and watching kind of the defense. And, you give up 150 yards to Jade Knott on 7 carries in the first half or whatever it was. If you're not on Underdog Fantasy yet, and you haven't used our promo code, USC LAFB gives you a $500 match bonus. Jade Knott over 74.5 yards was the easiest money I've ever won. So that was an easy one, so check that out. But yeah, I mean, I think if we're looking just player wise, I think it shows how important Bear Alexander is to this team. The defense, I wouldn't say was dramatically better in the second half, but there was some improvement. And Bear Alexander obviously missed the first half due to the ejection with the helmet or the targeting in the game prior. So he missed the first half and comes back in the second half. And they did have 3 straight possessions of 2 stops and then a turnover. So there was some improvement. And then obviously we had some lapses there in the late third, early fourth. But I think it shows that Bear has a true importance to this, which, as a team of this caliber, you should have a lot more depth than that, or at least a lot more players that can fill in. So that's, another topic for another day, but some improvement there, at least on that aspect. And offensively, yeah, it's just a roller coaster, right? Like Jamal said, there were some drives where like, okay, here's the SC offense, here's the Caleb Williams we know, and then some drives where it was, the thing we've seen over the last 4 weeks. This game felt a lot like the Arizona game in a way, where just not a lot of things were working. Cal was having their best performance on offense, kind of like Arizona was. There was breakout stuff, but at the end of the day, this is kind of how I saw it, and it wasn't at every single level, but it felt like Cal was the overall better coach team. SC just had more talent. And at the end of the day, the talent won and was able to get them over the top. So this is what it is. But hey, it was a fun game. If you're not like at the hospital with cardiac arrest, it was certainly a fun, exciting game. And 50-49, the team wins and you move on to the next one.
I told you I respect Justin Wilcox. He was going to have him ready. I respect the hell out of Justin Wilcox. I think he's very good what he does schematically on defense, and I think he's one of those coaches that is always going to have his team ready to play. And like they were saying yesterday on the Pac-12 network, it was like he had them trending up, and then COVID happened, and then he had to restart everything after COVID. And it's hard to get in. They're Stanford's little brother, and they want to be Stanford, and so they make their admissions like Stanford and all that. So it's really hard. But let's get to some questions, Ryan. So let's scroll through there and let's see what the people got. I like the one that you put up from LV Live. That one. Coach and Jamal, it's super obvious that Riley has to change the DC. The players won the second half. It was not the scheme. 100% agree. So I'm at the point now to where we just have to accept these type of games, and this is the type of team that they are. I think that Alex Grinch is not going anywhere, especially if they win out. If they win out, Alex Grinch isn't going anywhere, right? This is my interpretation from the statement that he made last weekend, where he said, "We're here for the long run, and we're not going anywhere." So this is the defense that we have, and this is the defensive scheme that we have. It's going to make you frustrated watching. My wife is from San Diego, and all of a sudden she's a Dodger fan now. She played softball at the University of Miami, Ohio. The Battle of the Bricks was on, which is Ohio versus Miami, Ohio. She didn't even want to watch that game. She wanted to watch the USC game. She sits up there and just critiques the defense, this and that. Like, what time is the SC game on? So she's like I don't even know what type of fan you call it, but she sits and watches the games and critiques the defense. So she was tough. She's all about Grinch needing to be fired too. But at the end of the day, I don't think there will be a change made. And that's just my opinion. Like, just based off the statement and the way I interpret the statement, I don't think there will be a change made. I think Grinch will be back next year. Will there be changes to the defense? Maybe they bring in a consultant to help the defense, but I don't think there will be changes made. I think if they went out, right, even if they go 2-1 over this next playoff run, because this is the playoffs for us, they go 2-1, Grinch stays, guaranteed. If they go 0-3, I think there will be changes on the defensive staff, but I don't think that I don't think they get rid of Grinch. I think they retain Grinch. Just off the comment that he made last week after the Utah game. What do you think, Jamal?
Yeah, I mean, I think to LV Live's point, the scheme, the scheme's terrible, and so, the players won. I mean, Gentry won the game, and, and it was also sort of aided by the fact that Cal was down to their 5th string running back at the end of that game. They were, it was those personal foul penalties that just totally threw them off schedule, that really didn't have anything to do with SC. And it just kind of came down to they just self-destructed there at the end. I mean, what was it? 3 straight touches. Cal had a turnover in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was just sort of they couldn't even really hang on to the ball. So again, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And yet again, it came down to sort of the 3 ingredients that I've said all year. If you can get 4, you can get pressure with 4, drop 7, you got good quarterback play. And then the third is you got to win in short yardage. And yet again, it was Arizona and Cal couldn't win in short yardage when it really mattered the most. And that's how SC was able to eke it out. But, completely agree with you. Schematically, this team is sort of broken. Lincoln Riley's comments at the end of the game were puzzling. Again, obviously he's defending his guy. And he said, well, it was really more the offense and the defense. And it was all sort of phases of the game. But yeah, I mean, this scheme is broken. It is what it is. And now we find out because SC, every single win SC has had this year has been against an unranked team. Those teams are a combined 20-35. They've played nobody. This has been the easiest kind of schedule up until this point in the season. And now they play 3 straight ranked teams. So the rubber's going to meet the road and we'll find out if the scheme can kind of hold up against elite competition.
When Jamal has kids, his kids will not be allowed to bring home a 98%. It's 100% or better.
No, that's more my dad. I'm a little bit more chill, All
right.
90%,
sure. 90% will not be allowed. You got anything to say on that, Ryan, before we go to the next question?
I mean, who knows what it's I cannot see a world that Grinch is back, even if, and I don't think they will run the table, but let's just say even if they do, if in some alter universe, Alan Jamal, they run the table, they win the Pac-12 title, and they win the Rose Bowl, then yeah, probably. I mean, you're not going to change your staff at that point because look at the results. But A, I don't see it happening, and B, just with this stretch, and when you're winning games 50-49 against an offense that, the only time they've scored this much points again was against North Texas. I mean, it's just not a recipe that is going to be sustainable if you want to get to that higher road, especially going to the Big Ten, where you're going to get bullied in the running game, and Jaden Ott's a great back, but the Cal offensive line should not just be shoving these guys around, and it shouldn't be where there's just guys out of position. As you say all the time, Al, the numbers game is just terrible in terms of where they're running to. I mean, simple zone runs where Ott was just patient, and then there was no one as soon as he patient to the line of scrimmage and then cut it to the right, and all of a sudden it's a 70-yard touchdown. So it's simple things that, as a head coach in Lincoln Riley, at the end of the season, like that, nothing's going to happen, I think, during the season, unless they get blown out by Washington and blown up by Oregon. Maybe you do something just to make a statement, but I can't see a world where he doesn't make a change. And even if he doesn't want to, I think this will really test the salt of Jen Cohen, new AD, of how much power she has. If she's able to go in there and say, look, we have to make a change, if it's Carol Folt, whatever it may be. But I mean, between the fans, the boosters, everyone out there, I mean, I just don't see a world where Lincoln Riley can bring this guy back without winning the Rose Bowl, basically.
Anybody watching right now, if you know any booster, I'm available. I am willing to do it right now. Go talk to a booster right now. Show them all the clips. I'm available right now. I don't see how Riley can afford to keep Grinch because it will be too detrimental to defensive recruiting, in my opinion. Yeah, man. Like, yeah, I agree. But I will tell you this. Being recruited at one point in my life, and I remember going to UCLA, and they were down on defense the year I was being recruited. They were down, and it was crazy because they were down the year I was being recruited. So I graduated in 2006, so it was the 2005 season. They weren't great on defense, and I was like, I could start at UCLA right now because the defense isn't good. It could have been scheme or anything. I didn't know very much back then, but in my mindset is I could go and start right now and make the defense better. Right? Every person I shouldn't say every person, but a lot of kids want to go and start right now because they want to be 3 and done and get to the NFL. That's the goal, right? So I need to start as a freshman. So if you take the aspect of I could go to SC and start as a freshman and make the defense better, never mind the scheme. High school schemes aren't great. I can make the defense better. They could go and be like, I could start right now. Like, I know a lot of people's been getting on recruiting, but if you go look, we're getting a lot of 4-star commits. We're getting a lot of 5-star commits. They're not LA kids, and that's an issue, and we'll discuss that. We need to have a show to talk about that, and I need to get that off my chest, but we won't do that today. But I mean, if you, I don't know. I guess it's just how you look at it, right? It's either or. If they go 2-1 and keep Grinch, I quit watching until they fire Riley. That's even more insulting than Helton, right? So here's the deal. Riley won't be fired, but he has 8 years left. We got a long way to go. It will be the next Olympics before they even talk about getting rid of Lincoln Riley, unless somebody comes and takes him, right? 2024, we have Olympics next year in 2024. The Olympics following that will be what, 28?
28 in LA.
Yeah, 28 in LA, which is at the end of his contract. That's the only way we could talk about it, right? Unless the boosters, unless both collectives come together and raise money, and unless a booster comes like, look, we got to fix this fast because, like, here's the deal, and I'm gonna point out the positives, and you guys could rebuttal on this. When Helton was there at the end, they were not filling up the stands, right? They're at least getting 60,000 people there. And it's been like, even when I was there, when we play schools like Arizona or Idaho or something like that, and at that time was seated 90 something thousand, we'll only get about 60 to 70,000 people, right? Washington is sold out, right? The stands are filling up. The product that they are putting on the field offensively is very good, and people want to come see it. People actually want to come see USC games now compared to where they did not want to see USC games. The defensive product is not great, and that's what's deterring people from showing up to games. If the defensive product was at least average, right, just average, they'll be selling out consistently every week because average defense with this offense, I don't see you losing. We might have got beat by Notre Dame because they were just a little bit tougher than us, but I don't see us losing to Utah. Just the average defense, right? Or not even average defense. I'm not even going to say that. I think talent-wise, the defense is good enough. I think if the scheme was better and they were put in a better position, I think we'll be a lot better record-wise. We won't be having these talks. So the product is great. So that's what keeps Riley off the hot seat. You got to compare the product to when Helton was there to the product that we have now. The product is better. Is it way better? No, it's not way better. But people are actually coming to see it, right? You won't be able to get in next week. You definitely won't be able to get in for the battle for Victory Vale, right? So I think the product is better. Riley on the hot seat is not a thing. Grinch is more on the hot seat than Riley. Everybody's saying we need to get rid of Grinch. We don't need to get rid of Riley. We're good with Riley. We just have questions with his culture, and we need to train him on what to say when he's in front of the mic because he
Fred,
is.
Can I jump in for a second? And I want to kind of hit the Jeff Rodriguez's question there, and it's a great one. Before we kind of go to the next one, he said 2-1. I agree. I don't see a world where this team wins in Eugene. I think that Washington is going to be an interesting game, and we'll get into it later in the week. And then UCLA is kind of a 50-50. So I do see one more loss coming for sure. And what's interesting is that this actually feels exactly like the Helton years. When you talk about the 2 years with Darnold, it was a flawed team, and Darnold was able, with his improvisational skills, with his ability to extend plays, was able to mask a lot of the issues with this team, where they were able to go 21-6 over 2 years, win a Pac-12 championship, win a Rose Bowl. These teams feel exactly the same. And so it's sort of an interesting analogy there. I think oftentimes with the Helton years, because it ended so poorly, no one wants to give him any credit whatsoever. Lincoln Riley has to work up to be Clay Helton. Let's get that straight, okay? Lincoln Riley doesn't have a conference championship yet. Lincoln Riley doesn't have a Rose Bowl yet. So until he gets those two things, you can't say that he's already better than Clay Helton. I'm sorry. He's getting paid more than Clay Helton, but he's not better than Helton yet. You got to still earn it. And I think to the point about the product being better on the field, Fred, I mean, there were 60,000 people in Utah. I actually sort of commented to some folks that I was at the game where there was no juice in the building. They came out lethargic. The team did. There was no energy in the building. The halftime show was a disgrace, but that's another story. I mean, there was no juice in the building. So we keep saying these games are going to be sold out, but then when it actually comes time to go to the games, it's not sold out. So we'll see what happens. But I think this is exactly like the Helton years, and Caleb is able to mask a lot of these issues. Look, at the end of the day, this team is 2 plays away from having 4 losses at this point, right? So you have to sort of balance it both ways. And they were 2 plays away from having 5 losses last year. But because Caleb was able to make big plays at the right time, that this team is still in contention. But at the end of the day, this feels very similar to the Helton years, particularly with Darnold.
Don't start powdering Caleb's butt, Jamal. No, I'm joking.
I'm not.
What's that next question that you threw up there, Ryan? You threw one up after that. Oh, that one. The DBs got picked all game in man-to-man coverage. It's time to have a discussion about Dante Williams. It's time to come out of man. Let's start there. We run a lot of man, and I think it's time to come out of man. We're living and dying. I mean, have you heard the phrase "live by the gun, die by the gun"? That type of thing. We're living in man and dying in man. We need to come out of man. It's time to zone some stuff up and get out of. They're playing a lot of fire zone. It's time to come out of that. Let's keep people in front of us and just let the line try to get pressure. But yeah, we're not a man team, and that's like one of the changes I would make if I was there. Like, we just need to come out of man and just start zoning things up a lot more, and stop worrying. Let the line try to get pressure, and let's minimize these big plays. You know what I mean? Like, zone is the best way to minimize big plays. So I don't think it's so much Dante Williams where he is an issue, because we talked about that. Like, you're bringing Helton culture in and then Riley culture, that whole thing that we talked about last week. But I think we need to get out of man and start running a little bit more zone. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think your fave sheet is another great person who's sort of engaged on the show. So I just want to, sort of recognize, this person for the support. So thank you so much, as always. It's a really interesting question. Is it time to have a discussion about Dante Williams? Because what did we just talk about on the last question? And that was recruiting's a problem, right? They're ranked 25th. They're not getting the Southern California pipeline, and the secondary is struggling. I agree with you, Fred, that I think there's an opportunity to go zone to kind of limit some things, especially given how undisciplined the secondary is. They got how many pass or PIs did they get called for last night? It felt like it could have been more too. I mean, there were a few where the refs were just kind of like, we can't call this every play.
2 in a row on that one drive.
Pretty undisciplined in terms of the play. But why did we keep Dante Williams? It really wasn't for his defensive back savvy. It was, remember, 2 years ago, we were talking about him being one of the great recruiting minds in all of college football, and certainly on the West Coast. But now, if you're in a position where you're still at 25 in terms of the recruiting rankings, you're 0 for 5 with Mater Dei, you're 1 for 5 with Bosco, you're starting to lose the pipeline. What exactly is the value proposition of Dante Williams? I mean, good secondary coaches are a commodity. I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen, but it's not hard to go get a good secondary coach. The whole reason Dante Williams is still here and still on Lincoln Riley's staff is his ability to recruit. And if he can't do that, I agree with you. I think it's time to have a discussion, certainly in the offseason, about what is the value that Dante Williams is bringing to the table.
I personally know 3 coaches at Bosco, and I know a coach at Mater Dei. I remember somebody said in the comments, it doesn't matter that I have SoCal ties to get SoCal players. That matters. That matters. I'm one of you guys. Like, I grew up playing in your CIF. Hey, you guys, give me this job. I'll still be on LAFB. It'll be even better because we'll have inside. I'm just saying. I'm just joking. Go ahead. Let's move on. You got anything to say, Ryan, or you want to go to the next question?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jamal said it all. Dante's a SoCal guy too, so it's interesting. It's kind of
we play Pop Warner at the same park.
Yeah,
me and Dante both play Pop Warner at Baldwin Hills. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, it's that's another conversation that we can get into. I wrote an article about it on LAFB if anyone wants to check that out, the recruiting thing and the issue. But this one quick, I'll just say it's 12 missed tackles. We don't really have to talk about that, but another double-digit missed tackle.
Yeah.
Here's one. Let's not spend too much time, so we can wrap this up quickly. But this is obviously going to be a topic for the next 6 months, and if it doesn't happen, or hopefully 4 weeks if a firing happens. But who's a DC candidate you guys like? I've got a couple on mind. I'm going to get an article up also this week on LFB about this, but who's someone you'd want to see come in?
Oh man, I was supposed to find his name. He is in the Big Ten. He's a
Leonard
brother too. Yeah, a lot of you guys are saying Jim Leonard, but I believe he's at Ohio State. He's a black dude. I can't remember his name though, but he's pretty good. They show him on TV all the time. I'm gonna find him and I'll have a name for him. No, he's doing a good job. So actually, you know what though? I actually want to see a younger guy. You know, like mid-30s type guy come in because he can relate a little bit more. You know what I mean? And like, I think the issue with recruiting with SC, and I could be wrong, and this is just my opinion. I don't think Lincoln Riley can relate to the kids in Southern California. I think once they have a conversation with him, I don't think they could I don't know about that guy. And Candace nails this all the time. He's a Wranglers wearing type of guy. Like I'm starting to as I talk about it more, I just don't think that he can relate to Southern California kids. Like they're a little bit they're different in ways. Like a Miami kid is different from a Texas kid. A Texas kid is different from a California kid. Like I don't think his Texas, Southwest persona works in California. And I just think he needs help on it. And I think if he gets the right people around him, good coaches always get the right people around him. I think he needs to get the right people around him in order to help with this recruiting issue. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say is, and I'll take the conversation a little bit differently. I think Jim Leonard is phenomenal in terms of his ability to coach defenses at Wisconsin. And then I think the other great name, of course, is DeAnton Lynn. And I'll say one thing. I would give up Lincoln Riley for DeAnton Lynn. And the reason I would say that if it meant going away from Lincoln Riley to be able to get a DeAnton Lynn, I would do it. And the reason I say that, because in the world of college football that we live in today, moving forward, it is so much harder to coach defense than it is to coach offense. The game is so designed now to be able to score a lot of points. Defenses are at such a disadvantage that if you're in a position where you've got a coach that really understands defense, even bringing up moderate resistance in this new age of spread and pace and space and all of these concepts, that is a more valuable skill than somebody who knows how to coach great offense. And if you take the $100 million of Lincoln Riley and you say, I'm going to give DeAnton Lynn $50 million, and then I'm going to use the other $50 million to go get a really good offensive coach. Now, for that same amount of money, I have both sides of the ball that are at an elite level. And so to me, it's not just about, look, at the end of the day, there is a limit to the boosters. And the fact when you give $100 million to a head coach, there isn't a lot left over for great coordinators. This still is not the SEC. This is still not Michigan and Ohio State. The USC pockets are deep for the Pac-12. They're not that deep when you stack it up with the likes of Texas and the rest of the country. There's only so much money to go around. If I were Jen Cohen, I would say if I could get that $100 million and split it up differently, if I could bring in a Jonathan Smith and be a culture builder of this team and be the CEO of this team, and then have someone like a DeAnton Lynn be my defensive coordinator, I would do that. And if it even meant that Riley was so offended that he would leave, I would be willing to make that trade. Now, obviously, in an ideal world, it's an and, it's not an or, where you would want an elite defensive coordinator with Lincoln Riley so you get the best of both worlds. But I just think that understanding defense in today's day and age is such a more valued skill than being a great offensive coach. There are a lot of really good play callers that are out there that you can get for cheaper than $100 million. So I would, even if it meant I had to give up Lincoln Riley, I would go get a DeAnton Lynn.
Yeah, Ryan, look who made their way in.
Yeah, I saw.
It's gonna get worse over the next couple. This is my brother Jamal. He went to Oregon, so he comes in every Sunday and always mentions the Ducks. So the next couple weeks is gonna get interesting.
Real quick, I'll give a.
Go ahead.
Let me just give a couple examples, just in reference to actual DC. Two that won't happen. That would be, I think, good, but they won't happen. Jimmy Lake. Obviously, I think we've talked about him before. He's on the Rams staff right now, but Jen Cohen fired him at Washington. And, obviously there's issues with what he did in that program and stuff. So that won't happen. But as far as his defensive mind, he would be a solid one.
Wait, hold on, Ryan. Ryan, speaking of that, though, and you're about to mention Coach O. I didn't mean to cut you off, but as a professional, right? You're a professional. You're in a whole brand new place. Why not just bring him in, sit him down, like it's a part of the business. And here, for example, say I hire you two on my staff and it's just not working and I have to get rid of you. It's not that I'm not your friend anymore, but you guys have to understand as my friend, you have to be like, we understand and we need to move in a different direction. I'll help you guys get a job, all this and all that, but we got to move in a different direction. Why not bring them in and be like, look, we understand what happened to you, Dub. That's not allowed here. You're on a very short leash, one strike and you're gone, but it's for the betterment of this program. We need you here.
You'll have boosters walk away because it just shows that you don't care about ethics.
I got you. I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Carol Folt won't allow it. So I don't think so.
All right. Good response.
I'm not saying it wouldn't be worth the conversation, but I can't see it. And the other one, same thing, Coach O, sitting out there. He said last year, actually, he would be willing to come back to SC with Lincoln Riley if asked. I don't know, but I don't think Carol Folt would let that fly for whatever reason. So I can't see that.
The one name Carol Folt, Ryan, is like, I don't think she knows anything about football. I don't think she really wants to control anything about football. I think it's more of a question of what does Coach O do? I mean, we love Coach O. If Coach O wants to be the next Dante Williams and reestablish the recruiting pipeline for SoCal, that sounds phenomenal. But to have Coach O as a defensive coordinator, that was never really his thing to begin with. So, I mean, it wouldn't make any sense because he's really not a defensive coordinator. It's the wrong job.
Wasn't he the DC here for one stint?
No. He never
recruiting coordinator and DC.
No, he never was the DC.
He was never the DC.
I think he was, but anyway, that's not going to happen. The one name that I do like, and I always say his last name wrong. I don't know if it's Simmons or Simones, but SMU's DC Scott Simmons has SMU in the top 20 right now, and he's a younger guy. Lesser known, would obviously be a nice jump for him going from SMU to USC. So who knows if they'll do that? And obviously Jim Leonard would be a great one as well, analyst on Illinois right now. So those would be, I think, some names to look out for if it happens. But first, you gotta move on from the current one. So we'll see if that actually does happen.
Or just have him change his scheme. I mean, it's not hard. Like, you just have to change the defense. I think if he changes the defense, I mean, a lot of people are saying this, but I'm just being honest, you guys. I don't think they're going to get rid of him. I'm just being honest with you guys. I don't think they're going to get rid of him. I think he's going to be around again. I think he's going to be around for a while. And for the issue of Jamal saying, I think he's making $4 million, right? So if you get rid of him, that's another buyout, right? So, Ken Norton Jr. and Lincoln Riley won't mesh well. I know Ken Norton Jr. I've played with him. I don't think that's two different personalities. Ken Norton Jr. is up here, like personality wise, and he's like, get going, let's go. Maybe, and that's what they need. And Lincoln Riley is too mellow. I don't see those personalities. Ken Norton Jr. is a great choice, though. He has NFL experience, Rose Bowl winning, national championship winning experience. He's a championship coach. Like, I'm not against that, but I don't think the personalities will clash.
I don't think just from what I've seen, I don't think Lincoln's as mellow as the persona he gives off in media and stuff. I'm not saying he's like a absolute screamer down your throat, but he's definitely much more up than I think he gives off, to media.
Put it like this: Ken Norton Jr. wakes up at 13.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not in a bad way. He's just a fiery guy. Like he tries to get the best out of you, and he tries to, you know what I mean? It's not in a bad way, but I just don't see that personality work.
I think personality is one thing. I also think control is another, because when you look at Ken Norton Jr.'s situation right now, I mean, he is with Chip Kelly, who I don't think anyone would sort of say is a charismatic enough guy to like run for president. I mean, so it's, Chip is a pretty cerebral guy himself, but I think what Chip has done is he sort of ceded control to Ken Norton Jr. of saying, hey, Ken Norton Jr., you are my recruiting coordinator. You are sort of the face of the program in terms of the voice externally facing, and I really trust you to do what you're doing. I think the clash I would see potentially with the Ken Norton Jr. Lincoln Riley is Lincoln Riley not wanting to cede that control, and I think that's where, more than even personality, I think it's a conversation around control.
Here, let's do this. And if he's still watching, we could actually get the answer to that question. Kenny, if you're still watching, was there anybody when Chip was the head coach, was there anybody fiery like Ken Norton Jr., and how did Chip handle that? That's the bet. I mean, we might as well go to the source because, I mean, my brother played with Chip, and so we could figure that out. We could get that question answered to figure out how the Ken Norton Chip Kelly relationship works. So hopefully he's watching and answers the question. If not, I'll just punch him in the chest the next time I see him. It's more scheming than talent. If we had a nope, I hate 3-4. We could stay in a 4-3. We need to go to a 4-2-5. So I hate 3-4. Only people who are successful in 3-4 that I could think of off the top of my head is Kirby Smart and Nick Saban. And the reason why they're successful is because they go get the best. They go get the best zero technique in the nation. So number 1 probably goes to Georgia. Number 2 probably goes to Alabama. And the rest of them are their backups. You have to have dogs at defensive line to play a 3-4, and we don't have those dogs. I hate 3-4. If you don't have a
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say there, Fred, and obviously you are a defensive expert, so I certainly, want to recognize that. The 3-4 is interesting this year because it actually puts your best 7 on the field. And when you talk about this personnel, and I've kind of said it, that it's very clear to me who the 4 linebackers should be rotationally when it comes to Gentry and Cobb, and Jamil Muhammad and Romello Height, and then you sort of up front, you've got Solomon, Bird, and Bear, and then you can figure out who that third lineman is, but it puts 6 of your best 7 on the field at once. And so if you are sort of in this world where, look, we have no answers right now, an answer could just be, hey, let's just get our best guys on the field and let's just ask them to make plays rather than having to live and die with some of these other lesser players. The 3-4 allows you to at least put your best athletes on the field. So I would at least consider it moving forward just on that alone. Because if I'm not getting schematically what I want, if I'm not getting the discipline on the back end, at least I can win some plays on athleticism.
I will ask you this. Let me ask you this question. This is a good question, and
let's wrap up with.
Yeah, we can end it with this. This is the last question I will ask you guys after watching yesterday's game. So Mason Cobb has, I think. Oh, here we go. Here's the answer to your question. Yeah, all the defensive coaches were. So there you go. All the defensive coaches were like Ken Norton. So I think Chip just stayed on the offensive side and let the defensive coaches just be fired up.
That control.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I was just curious to know. So maybe if Lincoln's the same way, it might work. I don't know, but I just knew we could get the answer on why it works with Chip. So, but here's my question. Here's my question to you. Mason Cobb trending up. He's been playing really good football for a while, for the past couple of weeks. You guys agree or disagree? I think he's been playing really well, right? He's 10 tackles last night or something like that. Like
15. Awesome. I mean, 15, 7 solo.
15 yeah. He's playing really well. Gentry played really well yesterday. I think there's a fire that's been lit under Gentry.
Mm-hmm.
Do you start Gentry and Cobb from here on out?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. In my opinion, and I'm just being honest with you, in my opinion, I also think you have to find a spot for Romello Height, and because he's also playing well, right? And you know who else is playing well? And it's so unfortunate, man, because he's in a bad situation. The freshman, number 34. Help me out, Ryan. Help me out.
Braylon Shelby.
He's not playing bad football. He's making tackles. He's just in a bad position. And
but him and Height play more rush ins. So you can have him out there with both. You can have him
Gentry
out there,
and
Cobb. Yeah. More rush ins. It's more like
but see, I mean,
rotation
Fred,
is
now
more like
you're kind of in a 3-4 right now, right? When you're talking about getting slots for these guys, now you're talking 3-4 here, right? So that's what I'm saying is that I think sometimes you just got to you have to let talent dictate your scheme.
I just don't think we have the front 4-3-4.
You can't let scheme dictate your talent. If the talent that you have right now, given depth, given sort of positional variety right now, it sort of dictates a 3-4, frankly. I mean, because your strongest group right now, your linebackers, and you got Bird and Bear, and then you got a bunch of scrubs, frankly, on defense. And so at least get your best guys on the field. Now you have no depth behind them, agreed, but at least for 60% of the game, you have all of your best athletes on the field. And that over the course of 4 quarters probably gets you further along defensively than just sort of this musical chairs of keeping guys, quote unquote, fresh for later in the game, but they're not being effective.
I got you. The only thing is, I will say this. I don't think we have the front for a 3-4. That's the only thing. I don't think we had like
I'm not saying again, but you're not trying for this team to be a top 20 defense. I mean, all this team is trying to be is a top 60 defense with that offense. So do you have enough 3-4 to be top 60?
I got you. Okay. I only expect excellence, Jamal. I apologize. No, I'm joking.
Really need top.
This
Let's just
isn't
do top 100.
2008 anymore, Fred. So, we got to take what we can get.
No, it's been great. Hey, thank you guys for all your questions. I want everybody here to do something. I want you to go like, subscribe, and do all this stuff. But we have somebody on our LAFB network that is really good at picking underdog fantasy props. And we've been trying to get her on the show for a very long time. And she refuses to come on the show on Sunday to make props. So you guys are going to make her come on the show. I'm about to give you her Twitter handle right now. And I want you to blow her Twitter up and tell her to come on Victory Sunday. And all she has to do is come on for 5 minutes. And if she comes on for 5 minutes and makes her underdog fantasy props, she can leave. But I want all you guys to blow her up. Her Twitter handle is at Brittany_bets. It's BRITTANY_bets. Go blow her Twitter up right now. Tell her we want to see her next Sunday to make some underdog fantasy props. All she has to do is make 4 picks. We need her for 5 minutes. She keeps telling me no, and she's going to hate me for it, but I'll live. Hey, Victory Sunday, guys. We got to win on a UW. It's going to be interesting. This is going to be one of the most interesting weeks that we ever had. I'm hoping the stars align and we go 3-0, but that's me being optimistic. There's a path, and I'm hoping for that path. I appreciate you guys. Ryan, Jamal, this is great. Happy birthday again, Jamal.
Thank
Another
you so
trip
much.
around the earth. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll discuss this. We'll have the queen tomorrow. Hopefully she's in a good mood. We come out with a win. It's been another Victory Sunday. You guys, I want to thank you guys for all your support. You guys are killing this thing, man. We get more and more subscribers every day. Go tell 2 friends. Go like. Go subscribe. Let's blow this thing up. Our goal, you guys see where Ryan is, that mirror, we want to have that go play button behind Ryan one day. And we can't do this without you guys. Go to Underdog Fantasy. If you're not on there already, USC LAFB. They'll match up to $500. BetOnline.ag. You'll get a 50% bonus. Promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV. And if you need a beer for today, go visit your local store. Stone Brewery, Fight on Pale Ale. Great tasting, love it. And if you're healthy, AG1. Go get you some AG1. Go to drinkag1.com/Salute Detroit. I appreciate you guys. We got another one in the books. I'm really interested about this week. I can't wait for Thursday. Jamal, I am so excited about what you're going to say about this week. Really excited about what you're going to say. Interested to see what they talk about in practice this week, Ryan, when you hit up practices. And our fans, we love you guys. Keep helping us grow. We can't do this without you guys. You hear people say this all the time, but we really cannot do this without you guys. You guys are the oil that drives this machine. So let's keep this thing going. Another one in the book. Appreciate you guys. Fight on.